And welcome everybody to the Huddle, talking sports here on the K-Gun 9 streaming platforms. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris, and we've got a special guest this week, Ryan Hansen. He's color analyst, University of Arizona men's basketball, as the men's team and the women's team both set to open up their season, a doubleheader at McHale Center on Tuesday. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here in the Huddle. This is right where everyone should be at 3 o'clock on the weekdays.
Yeah. Good chance to take a break from work, a few minute break, and talk some Arizona basketball. All right, so there's so much we could talk about with the team, but we'll just start with this. Your takeaway from the exhibition win over Eastern New Mexico was almost kind of an extension of the red-blue game. Yes, it's Eastern New Mexico, but still the team looked good. What was your biggest takeaway from the exhibition win the other night?
Yeah, the first thing you have to always remember in exhibition games, don't get too excited and don't get too down. And no matter which direction it goes, you expect to win, and that is exactly what happened. What I did like to see was great chemistry, great camaraderie. I thought the team played, relatively speaking, so early on in Coach Lloyd's tenure here with his style. It's already, you can see the fingerprints already on this style of offense. And I described it, and it really kind of steals from his words, is Coach Lloyd is trying to teach these guys how to play, not to run set plays. And there's a big difference there. And I think we already saw it with the fluid movement of the ball, the fluid movement of the players on the offensive end. I'd say the defense has a little bit of ways to go if Arizona wants to do the things it wants to and compete for a potential postseason run. The defensive end is going to be something they've got to shore up. But boy, the offense is not only fluid, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it really is. And Ryan, before we get to, individual players, to me, as an outside observer, there's just a different atmosphere. And I'm not saying that's a knock on Sean Miller and the previous program. It's just different. And it does seem to be a little looser. And it appears that the players are having a lot of fun.
There's no doubt they're having fun. But, Pat, you and I both know the season doesn't start till you lose a game. And when Arizona faces adversity, that's when we're going to find out the mettle of this team, the character of this team. And there's no doubt coming this non-conference portion of the season, they will be tested. And that's when we'll see, is the chemistry really where we think it should be? Is the feeling and the vibe as positive as it appeared to be in that Division II win over Eastern New Mexico? Again, put that in perspective. That's a Division II school that had a pretty big turnover themselves. I mean, that school didn't even play last year. Arizona had a shortened COVID season. They didn't have a season. So you have to put it in perspective. But I do agree with you, Pat, that on the surface, there's a really good vibe with this team.
Ryan, a lot of times players make a big improvement from their freshman to their sophomore year, and the Wildcats have three key players who are sophomores this season in Kirk Kriisa and Zulus Tubelis and Ben Mathurin. Has either one of those three stood out to you and made a big jump that you've noticed in your coverage of the team so far?
Yeah, I'll go with the obvious one, and I think that's Ben Mathurin. He looks very comfortable in his new skin, which is going to be playmaker, scorer, and reliable player at the end of shot clock, end of game situations. He just looked super comfortable to me in that role. Azulis didn't look as good. I know he's had a couple of weeks. He's been a little banged up. No injuries by any means, but just I think he has a little bit of ways to go from what I was hoping to see. Kirk Kriisa, definitely not afraid to get the ball up quickly down the floor. That is perfect for Coach Lloyd's style. I think he's going to thrive in this up and down game. Got to see more consistent jump shooting out of him. To go 1 for 8 from the three-point line, not going to cut it at the Pac-12 level. I'll throw in another guy that you didn't mention that I expect to have a nice jump, and that's Dalen Terry. Sure. His freshman year was an up and down year. I expect more consistency out of him, and he's going to be a stat box stuffer. He's not going to put in 20 a game, but he's going to get you 8 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and he's going to, I think, find himself in the middle of the action.
We're talking with Ryan Hansen here in the Huddle, and we invite your comments if you're on one of the streaming platforms and say Facebook and you'd like to ask a question yourself. We invite you to go ahead and do so. We could probably do an entire show, Ryan, on what we think of the transfer portal and the pluses and minuses and in the direction that's going. But Justin Kier to me is a guy that Arizona uses that transfer portal and gets a guy who's a ready-made starter coming from Georgia. I've been really impressed with him. I want your thoughts on Justin.
A lot of times the transfer portal is reliant on relationships, prior established connections from either the recruiting backgrounds or maybe summer ball with a teammate. There was really little to no connection to Justin Kier. It was Arizona's coaching staff searching that portal, that list of players. And there's no doubt when you see someone from an SEC school averaging double digits a game, playing lots of minutes, and he's going to be 23 years old in his 6th year of college basketball. Can any team in the country use someone like that? Everyone in the country could use someone like that. And he did not disappoint in his first outing for Arizona in that uniform. What I see out of him is just bringing that calm, cool, collected experience. But he's kind of a ball hawk defensively. He was the 4th best stealer of the basketball in SEC play last year. We're talking Kentucky, Alabama, Arkansas, great teams that he was playing against, and he was 4th in the league in steals. If he can bring that and have that translate to the Pac-12, which there's no doubt in my mind it will, he could be an X factor for Arizona. If you think he may be coming off the bench to start, I have a feeling the end of games you're going to see Justin Kier in the game.
Yeah. Interesting. Kim Aiken Jr., another transfer who's done well. Tommy Lloyd said before the Red-Blue game, hey, this team has a lot of personality. I didn't quite know what he meant until I saw the introductions to the Red-Blue game. Does that translate anywhere when a team's having that much fun and enjoying things? Is there anything there that's tangible that can relate to results on the court?
Yeah, I think you're asking the question, Jason, because you know the answer. Absolutely, it matters. If you care about each other, when that shot went in late from Ben Ackerley from South Tucson, when he hit that 3, everyone was going crazy. That kid's only been on campus since August. He's a freshman. But you can tell that chemistry when the road gets tough, right? When you're at Illinois, your back's against the wall, Kofi Coburn is dunking on us. If you care about your teammates, if you have fun working hard together, it gets you through those adverse moments that Arizona will undoubtedly have. And you mentioned Kim Aiken. I think he's another guy, just like Justin Kier, who coming off the bench, most likely for Arizona in a reserve role, to have someone that experienced, that level-headed, he's not going to blow you away athletically. He's not going to jump and dunk on every big man in the Pac-12. But to have him be around the ball, he seems to be like a ball magnet. I think he could be another X/Y factor for the Cats.
Ryan, I want to ask you real quick about the addition to the staff, this coaching staff of Steve Robinson. I did a story the other day that we aired on KEG on 9. You talk about what a program who wouldn't want a guy. You're talking about Kier, who wouldn't want him in the transfer portal. Who wouldn't want a Steve Robinson to come in and just give you that experience? And he's got a lot of credibility with these players too.
Yeah, and the person that he's filling that role for, Jason Terry, was the one that was hired by Coach Lloyd, and that's a tough act to follow when you talk about his legacy, what he brings to the recruiting table here. Been there, done that, 19-year NBA player. You better fill it with somebody that has street cred. And I agree, Steve Robinson, somebody in college basketball who is well-liked, well-respected, a former head coach. So that can help a new head coach in Tommy Lloyd, because Steve Robinson has head coached at the highest level. He's also been a number 2 for one of the best that's ever done it in Roy Williams at the highest level at Kansas and North Carolina. So all the things you would think about and hope for, coaching elite level athletes, understanding how to coach them in high pressure situations, winning national titles. He has that experience of being on the bench at the Final Four and knows what it takes to get there. The turnover of rosters, dealing with one and done players. He's done that. I think it's an invaluable piece to a coaching staff that when you couple that with Jack Murphy and his Arizona connections, Ricky Foy and his NBA player development experience, that's a pretty good group, if not one of the best groups of assistant coaches to saddle up next to a brand new head coach. And I think Tommy put together a fantastic staff, and getting Coach Robinson, on waiver wires at the very last minute, boy, great pickup. And I've had a chance to visit with him like you did. What a gentleman there is in the game. I love that too, because you can tell he wants to do it the right way. And that's unique sometimes in this game.
All right. So, what would be your biggest concern going into the season? I'll throw out a couple things. Maybe
Okay.
you could pick on a little bit. Maybe the depth on the front court if somebody got hurt. Maybe somewhere on the roster you'd like to have a traditional pure point guard somewhere. I'm not sure there is one. If you had to come up with a concern going into the season, what would be yours?
I think you hit on a couple of the ones that it maybe didn't expose itself in the Eastern New Mexico game, but it will, and that is the interior depth. I think the interior ability to be dominant defensively, it's not going to be dominant defensively. It can be adequate, if not above adequate. I think they could be better rebounders. And from a scoring standpoint, we're not going to get the majority and the bulk of our points from the interior. But boy, if Koloko gets in foul trouble, if Balo, has a hamstring injury or something, you could see massive drop-offs in the inside. That may be my biggest concern, and that leads to the overall biggest question is how good defensively can this team be? I think we've got individual parts. Justin Kier, good defensively. Dalen Terry could be great defensively. Rim protector deluxe in Christian Koloko. But as a cohesive unit, can they defend consistently? Can they get the stop they need? And a lot of that will be dependent upon that interior depth. I will also add, you mentioned point guard play. I'll dispel a little bit of a rumor. College basketball has evolved so much. The thought of having to have a Steve Kerr, a traditional floor general, I think is out the window. I mean, you even look at Gonzaga last year, Jalen Suggs, not John Stockton. He's a scorer, a distributor, and in that system, which we would expect to see a lot of the principles from Gonzaga's offensive machine. Granted, that was one of the most efficient offenses ever in the history of college basketball last year. But what we saw were the principles, and that is ball movement, player movement. And look back at the stats, Jason, from the Eastern New Mexico game, 24 assists. I know it's Eastern New Mexico, but 24 assists. No player had more than 4 assists. That shows to me it's not going to be one guy, and no knock on this guy. This is how he played. He did a great job. James Akinjo. The ball had to be in his hands for Arizona to initiate offense a lot last season. Well, he averaged a lot of assists, and that was a high mark. I see it being distributed more because of the style of play that Coach Lloyd will deploy. So that's not as big of a concern to me to have that traditional point guard.
Real quick, I want to take a little tangent here, Ryan, in this discussion here on the Huddle, and that is as a U of A alum, as somebody who's close to the men's program, you've got to be excited, as I think all of Tucson is, for the women's program too. Both programs are getting a lot of attention right now as they head into the first week. Just the buzz that they've created, and now you've got potentially 2 powerhouse programs at the same university.
Yeah, to have 6,000 season ticket holders for a women's program, that puts you probably in the top 15 nationally. Arizona basketball will be supported by the community, and we're seeing that. And what a better person, I don't know if there would have been a better pick than what Adia Barnes has proven to be, and that isn't always the case. The former best player that's ever played at your institution is not always the answer as your head coach or one of your greats. I mean, Walt Hazzard comes to mind at UCLA. His play, national champion, you would have thought that was an easy transition, didn't pan out, but Adia has it. Whatever the it is, she's got it. And what is neat to me, Pat, and I think what you're suggesting here, Adia's program is resonating beyond women's basketball fans. It's resonating with all Wildcat fans. I think it's resonating nationally with women of color. I think it's resonating with mothers, with maybe people you wouldn't automatically put in a sports category. She is busting through glass ceilings like crazy, and I love her competitive spirit. Look at her recruiting. Look at the team she's got this year. She's a little underrated, I would say, in the conference. I think a lot of people snubbed her a bit, but I'm so excited about the program she's developed. It's not just going to be one Final Four team. She has established a program and deserves the support of this community.
Yeah, exactly. Good points.
Fantastic. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. That was really good insight on both teams, actually. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you at McHale Center on Tuesday for the big doubleheader. Women's team playing at 5 against CSU, I believe, Cal State Northridge. and the
Yep.
men against NAU. Men aren't going to lose to NAU. I know that I said the football
Got to
team.
get some redemption. We got to get
I
some
know.
redemption.
I know.
I
I
can't
said the
believe we're
football
even
team wasn't
saying
gonna-
that.
I know. Thanks, Ryan. We appreciate it.
We appreciate
Glad
it.
to be a
Ryan,
part of the huddle, guys.
great,
All right,
great
take
stuff.
care.
Good insights. We'll see you on Tuesday.
All right.
All right. Yeah, Pat. That was interesting. That was interesting what he said there about the women's team really resonating nationally. And I think we've seen that here in Tucson among all different types of people. You know, it's a community team. You know,
That's
the
it.
men's basketball team is always going to be big time sports. Women's basketball is getting there to becoming big time sports. But even if it's not there just yet, and it's close if it's not, this is a team that is big time here in Tucson for sure.
Yeah, it's broken through, and it's not just your traditional, women's basketball fan, and it's not even just your traditional Wildcat fan. I would argue that the entire community, was at least paying attention to those scores and kind of went along for the ride there last spring with the Wildcats all the way to the championship game.
All right, we're going to jump off because I'm going to see you on the air live in about an hour 40 or hour 45. And certainly, we'll just touch on it real briefly here. You know, big topic today, Tucson and Robert Sarver with a bombshell ESPN report accusing him of sexual harassment, misogyny, other types of harassment, racism, sexism, anything you can imagine there. A lot of allegations. There are some unnamed sources. But certainly it's a disturbing report. It's a sad report, and you also wonder what this is going to lead to down the road. So we'll be talking about that today.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that, and past history shows that the NBA doesn't take kindly to these kind of allegations, and so you think that things could go wrong for Robert Sarver as owner of the Phoenix Suns. But if these allegations prove to be true, then obviously something's going to have to be done by the NBA. And so we'll see.
All right. Yeah, we'll see it. We'll see everybody at
I think Jason's gone, but we thank you for watching the Huddle. We'll see you at 5:00 on KGUN 9. Thanks again for joining us this Thursday at 3:00 for the Huddle. We'll see you next week as well.